Hey everyone, welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today's episode is about how change comes when you figure it out. I am so excited to share this guest with you today, so let's dive right in. My guest today is Celeste Durve, and she is the owner and founder of Viper, which offers custom staffing solutions for live events, venues, and brand marketing. Celeste shared more about what her work is like and how she got started throughout our conversation. So without further ado, let's get started with this episode featuring Celeste Durve.
Hi, I'm Celeste Durve. I'm a female founder, entrepreneur, and I own Viper. We're an LA-based hospitality agency, and what we focus on is temporary staffing and hospitality solutions at scale. We are based in LA, but we work in Miami, New York, Dallas, and Vegas. That's about it.
That is a great way to get started, Celeste. So, can you tell me more about your background and what inspired you to get started with this work that you're doing now? I would love to know more about what that whole journey was like for you.
So when I was in high school, I was a great student, but I just decided not to go to college because it was very expensive. And I knew that ultimately I wanted to work for myself. I didn't know what I would do, but I definitely wanted to do something of my own. And in high school, I had started this nonprofit. And so I had a little bit of experience with creating something. Coming out of high school, I was just working at a couple restaurants and I got a job at an internship that was producing events. And what would happen was I would work all day for free, 17-hour days, anything like that. It was very standard, producing these events. And then at the end of it, they would ask me to go to the front door and just manage their guest experience, like their guests checking in and like where their guests are sitting and anything kind of like a hostess. And so I had told them when I was 19, I was like, instead of us doing this, why don't I just bring my friends? We'll just handle this for you. You can give us like $50, maybe $100. And they were like, no, no, don't get crazy. So anyways, I ended up starting this like super small side hustle where anytime somebody was throwing a party, I would say, oh, let me know. And I'll bring, a couple girls and we'll check your guests in and we'll help with your guest experience. So that was how we started. Eventually I incorporated and I had a co-founder for the first like 7 years of the business, and then we went separate ways about a year ago. But really, we've scaled into like a full-service hospitality agency that does temporary staffing at scale, operations, logistics. We work with a lot of enterprise brands and a lot of celebrities.
That is so cool, and I love how organic the idea was when you first got started. So, can you also tell me about the process to develop your company over the last couple of years? What has it been like to grow your business from that beginning that you just talked about to now working with celebrities?
Yeah, it really is a long process. I've been like every time I talk to somebody now, I say that in the past year, I kind of like started a new business because after I bought my co-founder out a year ago, I went through and I restructured the whole company from the inside out. And so I'm actually getting a fresh like a check on what it was like starting a company again years ago. But the process, it kind of depends how you do it. First you'll incorporate a business, maybe you'll work with a lawyer, kind of set it up when it comes to like logistics. And then I think like the rest of it when it comes to building anything is just the discipline you have to like plant seeds for so long without really knowing if they're gonna blossom. You kind of just put like blind faith in and hope that they do. But the process for me was really a lot of networking, like endless amounts of networking, especially when I was like in my early 20s. I would just go out all the time and try to meet people and tell them about the business and take so many coffee meetings and just nonstop growing, my network. And that was kind of always like what I was good at. I was good at connecting dots for other people. And so then like I would just kind of get in the room by that. But I didn't start with any capital. I didn't start with any money saved up. So in addition to building the business and reinvesting, I still had a job. So I think honestly, to sum up the process for me, it was just a lot of like hard work consistently. And still to this day, I'm mostly like head down working. It doesn't get like, it's not like super glamorous every single day that people might think it is.
I think that is such a great point, and it's so important for people to remember that when they see this company and they see you being so successful, it's also so important to remember just how much work is going on behind the scenes that people might not know about, and that work might not be so glamorous and flashy. So I think that's a great point. Tell me about your initiative, hashtag last call, as well. You were named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 list this year, which is amazing. And they mentioned that in your bio. So I would love to hear that story behind hashtag last call as well.
Yes. So unfortunately, COVID kind of covered up some of the efforts. But right before COVID happened, right at the start of COVID, we were working at this nightclub. We were like running the door of this nightclub. And this big scandal came out that one of the partners at the nightclub was being subpoenaed by a young girl's family. And she had passed away because she was drugged, and the drugs killed her. And when they subpoenaed him and the other guys involved, and they published the all the text messages between them, we come to find out that they were super aware that they were drugging her. They were doing it with sexual intent. It was horrible, and everything was in this court case. And so some of the girls that worked at nightclubs in the area started sending them around, and the consensus across the board was all the girls said, well, there's nothing we can do. We'll all lose our jobs. He's a partner, he's a big deal. Nightlife is very small, it's a small community. And I remember like my old co-founder and I at the time were like, okay, well, we won't lose our jobs. And even if we do, like, this is not okay. Like, we have to stand up for this. So we started just literally posting on social media, being like, hey guys, like, we have to draw attention to this. Like, this is not okay. Like, we don't stand for this. So, like, if you guys want to, fine, but we won't. And it just went viral. We got so many girls coming forward telling us their stories that they had also been drugged at various nightclubs under different circumstances. So we like reached out to the DA and actually had a really interesting conversation with them about the fact that like when you are drugged, even if you go like get a kit done and like stuff like that, the city doesn't have like the money. So like usually like your kits and stuff will sit for like 2 years. Like they probably won't even run them. There's like a good chance. He was very honest about it. And so anyways, this got a lot of media attention. This got the attention of Time's Up. And so we rolled out this initiative called Last Call, where we were basically calling on bars and nightclubs to implement safety practices against this, like to have, the antidote to GHB in their toolkit, and to actually protect women. And if a woman comes and complains, like you have to write it down, because that's what we were noticing, is that women were complaining and there was no paper trail. So we launched this initiative. Unfortunately, then COVID happened. Then a lot of other stuff came up, like civilly, like the BLM movement and all of that. So we went viral for a minute, and then it kind of like was pushed under, and then we were in COVID for 2 years. So the nightclubs were not open. So I feel like they kind of got away easy, but that's what we were calling for at the time.
I think that is so inspiring. And I think that it's so great that you took a stand after realizing, well, we're not going to lose our jobs. So let's do something about this.
We definitely made a scene, I will say that. And we won in certain ways. That partner was removed from the nightclub. We made a lot of noise online about it, so like at least people were aware. That's all we can ask for. But I do feel like then the nightclubs closed down for 2 years, so I guess they got lucky too.
Yeah, just the timing. But I still do think it's a really important story and message to share. So thank you for talking about that. Have there been any words of wisdom or maybe advice that you've picked up that has really stuck with you as you've been doing all of this work?
There's so many. Some mantras, some quotes that keep me going. I actually have a few, but the one that like has been in my head the most lately is like, you just keep planting the seeds. That's like what I've been saying to myself, because sometimes like things don't come up right away. Like you don't see results from them right away. And that's kind of hard, because you're like kind of watching to see like your physical environment change with all the hard work that you're putting in. But so like lately I've just been saying to myself over and over, like, keep planting the seeds. But other than that, like just the way I was raised, my parents really raised me to be an independent thinker. And like the quote in my household was always, you're not a victim. You're not a victim. You're not a victim. Meaning like you co-create your reality. You have choices every single day that you get to make. No matter what the media tells you, no matter what anybody tells you, like, yes, I'm a woman. Yes, I'm first generation. I'm South Asian. I'm a minority. Like whatever the quote unquote odds stacked against you are. Not saying those odds are not real. Like I'm not saying there's not data and whatnot, but I just don't live my life by like this baseline theory that I'm behind everybody. And that's just like what my parents were. That was like always just the household quote, you're not a victim, you choose. And so even with them, they always had me like figure things out and, the hard way sometimes. But that's like really, it's honestly like cliche to say it, but those are kind of it. I just like figure it out. Everything is figure outable, like find the solution. There's a way. And like I try to just remember that too. And everything like hard times come, then they go away. Good times come, then they go away. Oh, we always say, like, me and my friends, good or bad, hard to say, because you just don't know. Like, it just keeps coming. So, I mean, I guess none of those are like exact quotes, but those are kind of the mantras that keep me going.
I love those, and there are so many great lessons in there, so thank you for sharing all of that. I have one more question for you, and it's kind of along the lines of the last question. But lots of young people, especially high school students and college students, want to create change, but they may not know how to get started with that work. What advice do you have for those people who may be listening?
I think like for young people, you guys have the resource of the internet, and like that is going to be like your biggest asset. Like I didn't have it in the same way that, you guys have it when I was starting out. So I did a lot of like hand to hand, like meeting in person and stuff. But if somebody wanted to create change, I would just start doing it. So like, whether it's TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, like talk about it. And I'm trying to get better at that right now. I'm also talking about it. Because I always think about things like that. But yeah, just like putting it out there. Like you have to put it out there. Even if it sucks, best case scenario, a lot of people see it. Worst case scenario, nobody sees it. But it doesn't matter. You just have to keep putting it out there and keep doing it, because eventually you'll get to a place where people then come to you because they see you already, doing that thing. So I would say like the internet is such an asset, but I would also say like, um, read books and like learn like long form, like do your due diligence and like study like a long form, like well thought out, um, philosophies or strategies from like people who have done it, and kind of like, in your world, whatever like that change looks like to you. Because I think that like we can learn so much by like actually investing the time and just like studying and like researching and learning, and then, put your own spin on it and put it out there. Hopefully that was helpful.
I really enjoyed talking with Celeste and learning about her work with Viper. I think the advice that Celeste shared and the words that Celeste said she lives by were so inspiring, and I really admire her belief that everything is figure outable, as she said. Everything has a solution, even the really hard things in life, and it might not be easy, but change comes when you figure it out. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can find Celeste on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I've included those links in the description of this episode. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at Be the Change Media Network. I am working on expanding Be the Change Media Network, which means bringing you more inspiring stories from amazing guests. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave the podcast a rating and a comment, because it will help these stories to reach, educate, and inspire more people. And I would also love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys.